All right, here we go. So we are going to talk about showing time today. It is a fantastic tool. It's actually offered to us through the Arizona Regional Multiple Listing Service. So it's one of the perks that we have by being a member. And with that, there's some great things that come from using this tool. It is a paid tool. And so when you get these kinds of tools free, it's really important that we dive in and actually take advantage of them. And I want to show you just a few things in showing time and then open it up for questions. It's a fairly simple tool. It's fairly intuitive in my opinion. But what it does is it allows you to operate much more efficiently as an agent. Not only are you able to set up tours in order to track what you've done for a specific client, but you also have the ability to set some specific controls on the listing side. And so when you have listings that you need to provide information for, or showing restrictions on, this will allow you to do that in a more efficient way than just using the multiple listing service. So without further ado, I'm going to do a quick screen share. We're going to go through some things that I want to point out to you guys, and then again, open it up for Q&A. This shouldn't take too long, but this is just a brief overview of showing time and what it looks like. So on the front, you have a dashboard. I'm not going to go into a lot of the dashboard things. You guys can, for the most part, figure that out. It's pretty easy. What I do want to do is hit on these menu items and again, take you through some of the things that are most important. So here in the showings, you actually have a calendar view of showings. This is going to show the showings that I have on my listings as well as the ones I have requested. So you can actually take off specific showings. And if you're looking at a calendar view, maybe you need to see what you've got scheduled for the month. You have the ability to take a quick glance at this before you schedule maybe another buyer appointment. And I like that because it does, again, help you keep organized. On the listings, you will then have the details. So you can actually see whether the appointment has been confirmed, the date, the time, who the agent is, and again, you can view or modify the appointments from this menu. So that's something that's interesting. Make new requests. I'm not going to go into right now because I think there's a better way to do requests, and I'm going to show that to you in a minute. But you do have the ability to plug in an address or an MLS number just for a single showing and put it in here under the showings. And then again, this will show you any showings that you currently have. You can also look back over the last 7 days or what's upcoming. So that's really helpful. What I love most about this though is the showing cart. And what it does is it allows you to lump in together a series of showings for a particular client and organize them in a way that makes sense. As you may know, most buyers are not going out to look at one home at a time. And so because of that, it's really important to not only map these showings for efficiency and drive time, but also to be able to calculate how much time you might need at each appointment and make sure that you're putting in the correct amount of time. Because of that, I love that this showing cart allows you to do that. So we're going to do a fake showing cart today, and I'm just going to walk you through again how that looks. And you don't have to do it through here. You can also go direct through the MLS. So if you want, you have the ability to access it. I'll show you that really quickly in a listing that you may have. This is just our office listings, for instance. Any listing that you're on, you have the ability to click on the very quick Showing Time app right above the listing photo. And that will take you right into a showing cart started for you on this listing. It's great that we can just say, yes, I want to. And then here's where we can, again, select our information, put our things in here. And then again, you can either schedule a single showing or you can add it to a showing cart. So if you have a bunch of listings, so for instance, let's say I wanted to do all of these, I could go in and click on these. Once it opens up, I can add it to a showing cart. And with that showing cart, I then have the ability to lump in, 4, 5, 10 showings for a day. I'm going to do a showing cart for today. And I'm going to just pick a random buyer. I have this in here for testing so that I can show you guys how this works. So I've labeled my buyer's name as buyer. And for the description, I might put the date, or I might put the location. It might be the month, whatever you want to do. In this case, I'm going to put 10-1 buyer showings. And that way, if, if this is, maybe it's June 3rd for Tim Smith showings or something like that, it will help you with organizing these showings, okay? So once I hit okay, you'll see that the address shows up in here automatically. We can also add in other MLS numbers. So for sake of time, I'm going to grab a couple of MLS numbers and show you how this works. I'm going to just copy the MLS. I'm going to put it in here with a comma. I'm going to go back and grab another one. I'm going to grab that one. And I'm going to grab one more just for fun so that we have a few to use, okay? So if these were the showings that your buyer wanted to see, you would plug all of these in. You're going to click go. And here we go. Now we've got all of our showings plugged into this system. Right from the get-go, you've got a map of where they are, so you can see these are in here. If you need to zoom out, you can do that. And you've got the listings in a line item format. What I love about this is that you have the ability to rearrange things very easily and to make sure that it makes sense. So let's say that your buyer is getting off work today at 3 o'clock and they need to do these showings, but they're getting off work over here. Maybe what we do is we start with this one as the first showing. Again, you can reroute these however you want, but you're going to do it in a way that makes sense. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag this up, and all of a sudden, my number 3 now becomes the first showing, okay? I have the ability to also do this again. So I'm going to take number 4 and make it number 2, because to me, I might as well go up to 303 and then come in and get these last 2. So again, I'm just dragging and dropping those into place. You can also reorganize them by selecting a specific number. So if you want house number 3 to be shown as the last house on the list, you can just select number 4 and it will automatically reorganize. Really neat tool, right? And you can map and see how all of these are set up so that you know what your drive is going to look like. And you can even print this map for your clients, which is also, again, very helpful. The next thing I love about this is once you have a showing in mind, you can select the time. So let's say, again, my client's getting off at 3, and so the earliest they can make that first appointment is 3:15, okay? We're going to put in a showing time request, and I'll make it from 3:15 to 3:45. I don't expect I'm going to need to be there more than 30 minutes. If you have any notes for the listing agent, you can do that. And if you have any instructions for your buyer, you can do that. So I'm going to save that one. And what's going to happen is it's now going to plug in a timeline. You can drag this over and start to see where your showing time block is. So this gives you a visual image of where your showing times are. The one thing that I also love about this is it's going to give you the mileage and the estimated drive time. If my drive time on this is 50 minutes, and I suspect we may finish our showing anytime between 3:30 and 3:45, I'm going to set the next showing accordingly, okay? So my next showing might start at 4:45, for example. Again, you can flex it if you think you might show up earlier, you think maybe there's less traffic during that time of day and you want to adjust for that, you can do that. If you think you need more time, you can bend that to put the showing request in a different time. But what it's going to do is it's going to, again, place that time block so you can start to see that you should have a very succinct flow of showings that go in order. Now we've got another 29-minute drive. Let's assume 30 minutes. If we were to start this showing at 4:45 and finish, let's say, about 5 o'clock, the earliest we might possibly get there would be 5:30, right? So this is where you have to put a little bit of thought into it. But again, it's fairly simple to see if these are available to show at that time. They will also block out showing times if the seller or listing agent has required that showings not happen during a certain time. So this can also help you with reorganizing your route. In MLS, you would have to print every individual sheet and read the private remarks for any showing restrictions, right? And if there are no remarks, you might have to call that agent and say, can we show today at 3? And they say, no, the seller needs you to come at 4:30. Again, you're doing all these manual notes and trying to reorganize your entire tour based around different communications from different agents. When you do it this way, if there were any showing restrictions, they're already going to be blocked out. So you can see right here, this one has showing restrictions after 7, no showings from 7 to 9. So if my client were getting off work at 6 o'clock, for instance, and we were going to start this tour after they got off work, that would probably be the first showing I would have to do, simply because I couldn't get to it after 7, and everything else would have to be in that 7 to 9 o'clock time frame. Does that make sense? So it's a really great tool just to help you. The next house is only 15 minutes away. Again, assuming that maybe we start at earliest at 5:30, we finish at 5:45, we've got a 15-minute drive. My next time to start might be around 6 o'clock. Okay. Again, if you want to give yourself a little buffer, you can always start that a little bit earlier, and you can always go a little later. These are going to default for you based on either what the listing agent has put in. So if they default their listings to no more than a 45-minute showing range, from the start time you select, it's going to automatically pre-fill that in. In this case, it's pre-filling in a 30-minute window. When there are tighter windows and you're doing a longer tour like this, where you've got a lot of driving, you want to be as tight as you can on those numbers and make sure that you've allotted enough time and that you feel like you can get to each house at the right time. Okay? Now we have the ability to see from our timeline that we're probably in about the right time. This one, I might push back just a little bit. It's always better to give yourself enough time. And even if you have to sit in front of the house for 5 minutes because you gave yourself a little bit more time, it's better than getting there early and not, and not being able to show the house, or maybe double booking. This program will also show you when other listing agents or showing agents are scheduled for a showing. So you don't pile up showing appointments on top of each other. Again, very helpful, especially in the heat of the summer, when maybe you might be sitting outside waiting to get into a house. The last thing you want to do is be standing outside in 105 degrees and not able to get in because another agent scheduled a showing at the same time. And that can happen. So with using this system, what it will do is it will notify other agents that a showing is already scheduled during your time block. And hopefully those other agents will then put in a showing request or adjust around the showing time that you've already got scheduled. Okay? So this is how the showing works. You can click on Smart Route and it will actually route for you. That's another great way to make this easier. I wanted to manually show you how I would go about estimating my showings and scheduling the times. And then once you've got that done, you can look at the turn-by-turn directions. This is a really great thing to give to your clients, especially right now when we're probably not in the car together. Given COVID, most of the time we've got clients that are following us or meeting us at homes, and they don't always know where they're going. So unless you're planning to send them the planos ahead of time and maybe information on each address, the other option you have is to text them each address in the order you're going to. I've found that's a really great tip for buyers because they can click on those links in their text. It will typically pop open a map app in their phone, and then they can get directions straight from their phone app to where they're going for each showing. But if you do have an old school buyer who maybe wants directions in a written format, you can print these out. It's a really great way just to, again, provide an extra layer of value for your clients. You can also print this map. So again, it just gives an overview of here's the layout for the tour, here's where we're going, here's the loop we're taking, or here's how far west we're going or far east. I think it visually helps buyers to see how much territory you're covering. I've found in the first couple of times that you do a tour, that's really helpful because they really don't understand necessarily how many homes they can see in a day and how long it's going to take. And so by providing them this map and then showing them that from 3 until almost 7 o'clock, we're only going to be able to see 4 houses, they start to realize that they've got to get really specific on what their top picks are so that you can see the most important houses, because it's going to be really hard if they've got 10 houses they want to see to get them in before the first wave of homes are probably already under contract, right? We need to make sure that we're being very efficient with showing them the ones that probably are the ones they want to put an offer in, not just showing them everything for the sake of seeing all the houses. Any questions so far on how this works for the showings? Okay, pretty cool how you can add in as many homes as you want, map them out, route the homes appropriately so that you're making the best time or the best use of time, either again using the smart route or by dragging and dropping to reorganize homes. If there are restrictions, again, you might have to go out of your way on one to see it because you're waiting for the next one to be available for a showing. But what this does is help you not to get too far off track with that. And then once you're done, the only thing you need to do is hit send requests. And what will happen is it will actually send out a notification to whoever is allocated in the system to be notified for a showing. That may be the listing agent who is approving them, or they might just be a secondary notification, and it might be going directly to the sellers who are approving all showing requests. When you're on that listing side, I'll show you how that works in just a second, but it will send out the notification. And then what will happen is instead of not yet requested, these appointment statuses will change to pending. And once they are approved, then it will show green and confirmed. And so you will actually have the ability to see which appointments you have requested are confirmed. And if you don't have all of them confirmed by the time your tour is about to start, it's obviously a red flag that you need to get in touch with that listing agent immediately and find out, can you still include that home on the tour? Or do you maybe need to adjust the time frames because you've got a showing that maybe wasn't approved because they just went under contract this morning. And now, rather than sitting in front of the next house for 30 minutes waiting, you might want to shorten up the time frames and change things a little bit. Okay, so that is the showing time, the showing cart in here. Again, just want to make sure everybody's really comfortable with that. Is anything you want me to cover in detail, or anything that you feel I didn't cover? Okay, perfect. So I'm going to get out of here because it's we're not going to need that. On the listing side, and again, because you don't have a lot of listings right now, I don't want to go into too much detail, but I just want to cover a couple of really quick things for you guys on homes that you have for showing. So I'm going to open this one as a sample because it is active. And what you're going to see is this menu. And again, I just want to make sure you're familiar with how to get to it. But under listing setup, you're going to set up your listing with your seller at the time that you're ready to schedule appointments, or before, preferably before, because you want to make sure that all of this information is in here. First of all, we're going to allow agents to request showings online. Yes, we absolutely want that. We have the choice now, because of this, to do virtual appointments. So actually we can allow people to do a virtual appointment, and that means that you can be on site doing a video showing for them without them being there in person. Okay, so you can have those restrictions in place if you want. Once you have the house and the showing set up here, you're going to choose the appointment type. If it is empty, you can do a courtesy call and show, which just allows the agent to get an immediate approval because there's no one at home that needs to verify or confirm the showing. Okay, that's a really helpful tool. And then view showing instructions as well as is another type of appointment. In this case, we're going to put appointment required because the house is occupied. Is it a listing agent accompanied showing? No, I'm not going to accompany every buyer and buyer's agent to the appointment. There are some times when you have a luxury listing, or perhaps you have an exclusive listing where that is the case, and where the listing agent needs to be present and on site, whether it's to disarm an alarm, or whether it's to remove dogs, or whether it's to maybe turn on all the lights and features. Maybe there's water features with the pool and so on, and you need to put that in there. Okay. You can also have a template for showing requests and feedback. And I love this. If you don't have the time to go in and create out, you can just use their template and it works just fine. And then the next section is the contact. So who's going to be notified of the showings and how? And this is where you get to add your contact information as the listing agent, as well as the contact information for the seller, or potentially the tenant or temporary occupant, whoever that may be. In this case, we have elected to notify of appointments by text and showing voice, and then confirm by text. So there are two different notifications that happen. One is the appointment request. The second is when it's confirmed with everybody involved. Okay. You have the ability to also select, again, your showing details, how you want to have that happen. And again, there's notifications in here. If you want to explore that further, you can. You can also add additional agents for notifications. So if, for instance, you're out of town on vacation and you have someone covering for you, you would want to add them to this listing so that they can be notified of showings and follow up. Last but not least is where we're going to put in the details for the showings. And this is really important. I want to make sure that you guys know that you can put in restrictions. So if you have specific times or days where you cannot have the home shown, you're going to add those in. This is also where you're going to put in your advance notice. So if you want to request that everybody give at least an hour notice, you can put that in here. If you're only suggesting a notification, you're going to put in the time that you expect someone to give as a courtesy. On this particular listing, we just had a showing request come in and it was 15 minutes prior to the actual appointment. That did not give the seller a whole lot of time to get out of the home. However, the challenge with putting in a required time block is that should that buyer have said, oh, I've got a lunch break and I just saw this house, I really want to go see it, they would not have been able to put in a request, which means we wouldn't have been able to get the showing at all. So keep that in mind. If you put a restriction in there, the system literally will not allow the showing to even be booked. I really recommend that you put suggested, and that when they text for showing approval, the seller can then approve or deny it if it is inconvenient because they haven't provided enough notice. You can also put, again, the maximum length of time, and then any details on access. If this particular home has an alarm, you're going to put that. If it has a gate code, if it has other instructions such as please text when leaving the premises so the seller can return. Anything like that, these are the showing instructions that you're going to hand type in so that all the parties are notified of any information that needs to be known about this showing. Any questions on how to set up the listing? Okay. Perfect. Well, that's a brief overview of showing time. Again, I wanted to show you both how to set up a showing cart for a buyer so that when you have multiple listings that you want to see, you can route them, you can schedule them according to appropriate drive time, and you can make sure that the appointment lengths are accurate and that you're being efficient in your showing. And then I just wanted to give you a brief overview of, again, how to set up a listing with both contact information for the parties who should be notified, instructions for the listing agents, and then any showing restrictions you may have that would allow for the home not to be shown. The last thing I just want to make you guys aware of when you're doing the listing side is the listing activity report. It's really helpful, and it's one of the things I would recommend that you schedule to send out weekly to your clients. Anytime you have a showing and you click on the listing report from your listing, it's going to give you an overview. And this is, again, just a really great visual aid, and sellers love getting this information because they know the house has been shown, but they don't always know how many times or what kind of feedback. So when you get through, you know, your first week or 2 weeks, give them this report and show them that you're making progress, that there are people interested, here's the feedback. And then again, if there's any information that's come in, you can actually publish it, and it will then show up on this report. So in this case, I've got a couple in here that are that needed to be published. I'm going to publish them. Then the seller can also see all of this information. And again, when you email, you can either print or email the report. It will show up in here for the seller. Okay. So that's the homeowner report. It's, again, a very helpful tool. This is what it looks like when you send it to the seller, and you can easily email it or you can print it and attach it, but it will show them the showing feedback as well as how many showings and some information. Okay. I hope that this was a really helpful overview on showing time. If you have any other questions, now's your last moment to chime in. Okay, perfect. Then I will sign off and let you guys get back to creating some opportunities to schedule some showings. Hopefully you have some buyers you are working with, and that was a helpful overview of ways you can make that a lot more expedient for both you and for them.
Yeah, I really appreciate